Hello, welcome back. Or if you're new to our series, welcome. This is part 3 of Plan and Implement Project-Based Learning. I'm Leanna Sterling. I head the organization Deeper Learning Educators and Students. On the YouTube page below the video is our website link. This video is in 4 sections. First, we have Inquiry Question Examples. Then, preparing students for inquiry. Next is how students' inquiry can be organized within the project. And finally, scaffolds to keep your students' inquiry on track. Links to many of the scaffolds and strategies in our video are on the YouTube page. Below the video, click Show More to see them. Feel free to use our resources with your students. Your insights and knowledge are valued. So please comment below on inquiry strategies in our video, or other inquiry strategies, or any other thoughts or questions. How can we diagnose this person's condition? Whether as problem-based learning or project-based, which overlap and often are the same, in medical schools, other graduate schools, and in college programs, students collaboratively plan and investigate their inquiry questions to solve real-life challenges. How can we provide a funeral for Bugsy? A video that shows kindergartners working on this challenge and other challenges is linked below. How can we create a sustainable practices garden? For this project, high school students I had worked with connected with college students who do organic gardening, and we connected with other experts as well, including faculty throughout our school. More about this project will be in a future video segment on involving outside experts in your students' challenge-solving projects. These challenge-solving projects, and most all challenge-solving projects, aren't tied to particular grade levels. Most all challenge-solving projects can be simplified and scaffolded or deepened and expanded for use with many grade levels. Within the project-based learning unit are structures and scaffolds that will keep your students' inquiry on track. But if you want to support inquiry in advance, the most important thing is a culture of respect for all and lifelong learning for all. Your communications with students and your modeling can be especially helpful to forward an inquiry culture. And if, in addition, you'd like activities that promote inquiry, here are good ones. On a Wonder Wall, students can post questions about a particular topic or their questions in general. The See, Think, Wonder activity by Visible Thinking encourages reflection, curiosity, and question. The question formulation technique by Right Question Institute supports students of any level in asking questions and determining which questions are most useful for their purposes. Roy Murdoch's 8th grade social studies students in Trenton, Maine used question formulation technique in their Constitutional Convention study. Roy commented on students' terrific conversation he heard during the activity. Below our video on the YouTube page is a link to question formulation technique and Mr. Murdoch's scaffolds for his students. Surely students' literacy, numeracy, collaboration, and critical thinking abilities support their project-based learning inquiry work. For helping students understand logical decision-making, filling out a matrix can foster discussion on the importance of having substantive knowledge of choices and thoughtful criteria for assessing the choices. But the intrinsic motivation and with adequate scaffolding, the challenge-solving project itself can strengthen students' abilities in these areas. Here are other skills that might be useful for your students' inquiry, depending on the project-based learning's requirements and options. But these kinds of skills could be best learned during the project through your or others' mini-presentations, scaffolds, peer assistance, and trial and error. A chart students can use to learn how to evaluate websites is linked below. Framing the project-based learning as a challenge question begins the inquiry. Then further inquiry questions follow. In our Part 2 video called Choose the Challenge are many challenge question examples. Here is the outline that we looked at in our introduction video for how you can organize a project's implementation. Once the wording of the challenge question is agreed upon, a suggested next step is a class Know, Need to Know, and Ideas chart activity. This is the Know, Need to Know Ideas chart for Helen Hergen's students' How Can We Conserve Energy in Our School project. For this activity, students reflect on their prior knowledge and understandings that relate to the challenge. Then students list questions they believe need to be answered in order to solve the challenge. These questions can be used as inquiry questions. Students then generate a list of initial ideas for solving the challenge. For example, resources with which to connect or any other ideas. For strong implementation of this activity, here are suggestions. For each of the 3 categories, first students reflect individually and perhaps make notes in their project journal. Then students discuss their thoughts with a peer. And finally, volunteer students contribute their thoughts to the class chart. You or a student scribe can write students' thoughts on the chart, or sticky notes with the thoughts can be placed on the chart. Or a wonder wall, mentioned previously as a way to support an inquiry culture, can be used to elicit students' need-to-knows. Teacher Rachel Singh's first grade students used a wonder wall within their How Can We Support Native People in Keeping Their Culture and History Alive challenge. And teachers often use the question formulation technique as a powerful strategy in eliciting students' need-to-knows. Before doing the Know, Need to Know Ideas activity with your students, it could be very helpful if you determine a few need-to-knows you believe are basic for your students to solve the challenge. If the class list doesn't include need-to-knows from your list, while maintaining respect for your students' views and choices, You can use cognitive coaching to guide your students in considering possible additional need-to-knows. Then, in collaborative groups, students continue inquiry, including research to investigate answers to the questions and new questions as their investigations deepen. Here's a structure for student small group inquiry you could use or adjust for your students' needs. In a future video, we'll have structures and scaffolds for students' collaboration. These are some questions for one of the groups in Helen Hergen's classes Conserving Energy project. Students' research sources might include articles, books, websites, outside experts, interviews, observations, videos, surveys, or experiments. An inquiry stance continues throughout the project as students reflect on their processes and their products, question what makes products and processes strongest, and assess the quality of their work and how their work may be enhanced, to reinforce that inquiry is a lifelong learning process. A suggestion is, at the end of the challenge-solving project, invite students to identify questions about the challenge they have at this point and how they might begin to find answers. Whether your students are young children or in graduate school, providing support for students' inquiry helps ensure best results. As students of any age gain experience with inquiry or demonstrate needed capabilities, the focus will then shift to supporting them in creating their own structures. Here are some scaffolding examples. This organizer, which could be used as an exit ticket, reminds students to pose inquiry questions and to consider their next steps. Here is an example of how a student might fill in the organizer, and it's based on a Portland High School challenge-solving project. The students also presented their findings and recommendations to the City Council. This and our other resources and scaffolds is linked below our video on the YouTube page. Click on Show More to see all the links. A flowchart reminds students of what they should do next in their inquiry process. As does an inquiry checklist that can be used as a student self-assessment. These graphics teacher Anthony Egbers created with prompts and question stems to support his students' inquiry. Already we looked at how students' beginning inquiry is structured with the Know, Need to Know Ideas activity. And this activity can be revisited with updated data as an entire class or individual group activity as your students' inquiry continues. Likewise, cognitive coaching is an ongoing scaffolding tool. As you and possibly an assistant go from group to group and maybe confer with individual students, you might choose to use cognitive coaching, in which you question students in order to guide them to helpful inquiry questions they might ask and logical conclusions. Helen Hergen's groups had a spokesperson for each who reported out the group's process at the end of each class, so students learned from the other groups, plus they gained another source of motivation to keep their own group's process strong. Students' scaffolded inquiry is emphasized in project-based learning, and reflecting, asking good questions, connecting to resources, and thinking further prepares students for life's major decisions and challenge solving. Our upcoming videos will be on the rest of project-based learning's features and related topics. If you appreciate this video, click on the thumbs up button and subscribe button. When you click on subscribe, you'll then see a picture of a bell. Click on the bell for notifications of future videos. Thanks for all you do for learners. See you next time.